welcome.
Hello.
To Always
Welcome
Strikes
to Always
Last.
Strikes Last. Yeah, welcome to Always Strikes Last.
Clearly a polished intro refined over many years of practice.
It's what we do. We put grits in our butter. Other way around.
Yeah, and we regret nothing. It's the theme of today. Regret nothing.
Nice.
No regrets.
I'm Miles, and of course, I'm always joined by Matt and Jack. We're here to talk about the fast approaching Everwinter coming up this weekend, Jack?
Indeed, it is tomorrow, since we were recording here on a Friday, 12/9, and I'm pretty excited about it. You know, I'm getting my Spurs dusted off to go off and actually play in a GT. I haven't had a chance to this year since LVO, which means that though I've been, quite avidly following stuff, getting some new games in, having some other opportunities to play AOS, I haven't really done one of my favorite things, which is these big league events. So it'll be nice to get out there and do it. And this time, I'm leaving my Hedonites in the cabinet. They've had their day in the sun, and taking a tour out with the ogres because of the new book and some fun stuff there. But I'm channeling the Hedonites in spirit because I am not bringing what would be, I think, thought of as the list right now for the new ogre book. I'm bringing some a bit more countercultural.
So you don't have 4 Iron Blasters and 12 Underguts or 12 Lead Belchers?
I don't. I have some of those models built, unpainted. I have another Iron Blaster kicking around the box beyond the one I do have painted and built. And, if I'd stretched, I could have gotten that stuff together. But despite my ability to read the internet and see that it is a good list, I wanted to, try out some of the other tricks in the book. That may prove to be a foolish choice, but it's it's got to be a fun one, I think. I was joking on one of the various Discords with other folks who were going there and some of the tournament players that showed to these things that. I noted there were 11 Ogre players arriving to Everwinter. It's like a 100-person plus GT.
Sure.
But there was only one Thunder Tusk, which seemed odd to me, given the fact that it is the Everwinter. And the Thunder Tusk, as noted in the lore, is the closest beast to the Everwinter. So 10 out of 10, 1,000,000 points for theme on that guy. But what a mystery. I, of course, was the person bringing the Thunder Tusk, but we'll see how it works out. But I think there's a lot of fun to be had. So on the preamble, I want to share my list with you guys before we move on to other topics and kind of a couple comments on it, just so sort of the pregame there.
Nice.
But it is a big tournament. A lot of big names from around the country who play a lot of AOS and do really well with it are coming in. So looking to be a great time, looking to be a lot of fun with some great games, kind of no matter what happens. But without further ado, here is what's being brought by this particular ogre general, starting with a battle regiment with a Frost Lord on Stonehorn, kind of doing the thing where he's a little harder to wound. It's one of the mount traits. Nice. A Tyrant, who is in fact the general, and bring in the Arcane Tome with some Levitate and the Rabble Rouser command trait to make it so that all the Noblars don't run away.
Yes.
And yep. And Brawler Guts, so if he does charge into something, he hits like a monster. So that's the 4-ups and the wound rolls, not the 6-ups or the 5-ups. And then we get to the meat of it. No pun intended. We get the battle line. 2 units of Iron Guts and a unit of Lead Belchers. So nice. 4, 4, and 4, as you'd expect. Good, potentially, because I'm going with the sub-faction that allows you to hit a bit harder the charges. So they're all going to bubble butt people on a 4-up, not a 5-up, if long as they have 3 or more ogre models. So each of these things can do crazy charges.
Nice.
Moving on down the line, there's not too much left because small armies, right, with ogres. A single Iron Blaster, a token Iron Blaster, 2 units of 20 Noblars because screens and utility. And last but not least, the star of the show, the thematic winner, the Thunder Tusk Beast Riders in a Behemoth slot for a cool 2-drop plus a Shards of Valagar for shenanigans. I can say with some confidence this is not a list which is being copied or seen elsewhere in the roles. But, I don't feel too shy about sharing on our podcast what the grand plan is. I want to run and hit things with the charges, and I want to proc Always Strikes Last, as per the podcast name, and I'll be wearing our T-shirt tomorrow.
Nice.
So that Iron Guts can whack without getting whacked back.
Nice.
That is hard theme right there. That's what we like to see in this podcast.
I was tempted. I mean, by some of these other lists, like my Kragnos list, some of these other things. But when we were, talking about this last week, this is the one where there's some tinkering and learnings to happen, and I think it'll be fun no matter what goes down at the table.
Well, and you're still going to get your old school Slanesh making somebody fight last, right?
Absolutely, and just hard to avoid.
At the very least,
I think there's some utility there.
Jack, I think that's going to be great fun. And I'm just scrolling through the tournament signups right now, and it is a who's who of internet big names. I noticed a certain Mr. Beasley is going to be there from representing Seattle.
Indeed.
Among other people, so that'll be fun. Say hi to him for us.
Yeah,
sure will. Yeah, it'll be entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those folks. Haven't had a chance to catch up with a number of them since other tournaments are around here and there, Matt included. So yeah, well, I know that we could talk forever and ever with multiple topics. One thing I'll leave on with cool interactions I really want to see happen a couple times is one, I want to use the Underguts I'm going to strike twice once a game ability.
It's brutal.
But the thing is, they strike last. But if you've made them strike last, it's your turn, you get to strike last for they strike last. Ipso facto, 2 Undergut whacks in a row for they can strike back. Not many things going to stand up to that.
Nice. Yeah, especially on your turn, right? So, so I guess that would be the thing, right? Get them charged into something. Hopefully, take out the screen with a different charge, pound right through with the Thunder Tusk and the Iron Guts to make sure you're tapped into something on 3. Get the monster off. It'd be a little complicated, but that's a good goal. It's a very good goal.
Definitely some order of operations trickery, which could either trip me up or allow me to get some things where people wouldn't expect them to go. So it'll be a puzzle.
Yeah, but the key word is fun. Also, not playing the same list that everybody else is playing gets you like a special badge in and of your own, right? I
like to think so.
I think that's needed, especially to keep the army afloat. Otherwise they'll just get weird points increases, right?
I think in some ways that's true. It's sort of a fun generator, right? Because it's fun for me because I get to try something novel and keep the masochistic part of my hedonist's heart running. With stuff which is not necessarily like an identified like buy this kind of unit. It's more fun for my opponents because they're not seeing a groan-inducing clone of something they already don't like or have already played once or twice before. And maybe it is good for the meta because people try different things. There's not going to be a Nerf bat hitting everything to book quite so quickly.
Yeah, and I feel like playing the unsung units is the best way to play the book in the long run, right? If you're dedicating yourself to a book, you got to know how the units that are going to go down in points or aren't going to be, the stars of the show will work. Because otherwise, you're going to get screwed. You're going to end up in a 40K situation where you've gotten whatever AOS's version of Rule of 3 drops on you, and then there's all 5. there's those 20 thunder or the cannons that I bought that are now I'm never going to be able to use them, which is what the dragon players all ran into when their points went up, right? Oh man, I bought 400 dragons, now I can only use 300. No.
I will say, just scrolling through this. So Jack, this is your goal is to find this guy. Hang on, it's Anthony Tentinelli. Trentinelli. There we go.
Yeah,
he's playing right. The best Gloomspike gets list. Loon Boss on Kegswig, Madcap Shaman, Scragrot, Loon Boss on Mangler Squigs, 20 shooters, 36 Squig Herd, and then another 36 Squig Herd. 2 units of Sneaky Snufflers and the Marsh Crawler Stagoth. and the Scuttletide.
That's very close to what Ricky brought to the tournament this last weekend, which is kind of funny. I don't know what's going on with that other than squigs, but
I mean they're good fun and A+, to that list building right there.
I do want to play that. I know Anthony's a really good player. I don't know what his plan is with that list because I don't know enough.
I'm sure he knows some secret sauce.
Yeah,
but
call the moon.
That's just
sorry,
fun.
go ahead.
No, it's
essentially call the moon. Throw random things around using teleports. Squigs will come back on a 4-and-up when they die.
Good rally.
So
okay, yeah.
There's just a lot of interesting blobs there. I don't know how well it works, but it again has the same problem that Gits have had for a long time. If you're not leaning hard into like squig hoppers or boingrats, right, or spiders, it's the speed. It doesn't. You can't. You have to play in a game of now excessive damage and rend, where the Gits can't be as unstoppable as they used to be. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. He's an amazing player. I know him from 40K, right? Yeah, Trent Nelly's 40K before he went to AOS, right?
I'm not sure. I've seen him around the AOS before. Nice guy. But yeah, I mean, that would be a fun game no matter what happens. I just love the idea of facing off against a massive pile of squig herders, and squig affiliates.
Right, that is 72 little testicle ball monsters.
Yeah, that's and double the wounds because remember they're 2 wounds each. And it's fine to let them fail battle shock and throw mortals at you. So there's a lot of fun there. But yeah, that should be interesting. So I don't even know what to say to that.
Matt, speaking of tournaments, you did I get this right? You ran a tournament or you're running a tournament very soon?
Yeah, so I just picked up I'm going to be running the Merry Squigmas, which is the Age of Sigmar alternative to Slaanesh out in Ocean Shores in Washington. So we'll be doing that annually now, but we kind of had a last minute, oh no, we need to do this. So I just picked it up and I was like, hey, we got 2 weeks to put this together. Whoever can come. Let's try and get a tournament in before December closes, right?
Nice.
So we had a fairly decent turnout. I wouldn't actually call it a GT with what we had in short little time, but 14 players showed up. Of course, we got hit with a snowstorm right then, so some people were a little screwed.
Classic.
And I decided that, considering this is going to be the last tournament of the year for a bunch of people, we're going to be seeing a new GHB. And honestly, playing 5 missions over and over and over and over in a competitive scene is boring. It's boring and boring and boring. And most of the tournaments that I've gone to lately are people just going through the motions on their missions and playing their army almost on autopilot. Which to me is probably the biggest sin in wargaming for me. If you're not making decisions and having to learn something as you go, why, right? So I went ahead and just gave us all of the crazy ones. Won't back down. What was another one? We did Mighty and the Cunning, the Lurkers Below, in the Presence of Idols.
Nice.
I wanted to. What else did we do? I think we did Close to the Chest. Yep. So essentially, the goal was like, okay, I know that half of our players coming in are going to be extremely experienced players. We don't have enough people to consider it a GT, so we decided to make random pairings for the first day, and then points accrued would then move into your placings for the last 2 games, right? That way we're cutting down on the amount of people that are going to be forced to fight each other for that ranking spot. and also, duplicate pairings won't happen, right? Hopefully. So the initial sticker shock on everybody's face was worth it right away for the first mission, because I gave them the wackiest one on the first one. Nice. And that was the, hold 3 to automatically win. Because it's
an instant classic.
Well, it's a really interesting mission that nobody realizes, because we all look at it and we say hold 3 to win. That sucks. Well, you have to hold 1 before you can hold the second one, before you can hold the third one. So it's actually, and you can't hold them on turn 1. So you can hypothetically win at the end of your opponent's turn if you're grabbing the objective on turn 3 if they're going second. So that's a very rare case. So it actually ended up being a mission that, as much as everybody was scowling right away, they ended up being like, whoa, at the end of it. Like, that's a unique experience that I have not had at a tournament. And there's something to be said about that. Like, why do we only play 5 or 6 missions? Why do I show up and play only 5 or 6 missions out of this GHP? Yes, some of them are bad feels, but is that on the TO, right? Nobody wants to have an instant win mission to end out their day. For me, that's the sign of a lazy TO saying, oh, yeah, let's just end this, right? Give them the hard ones on the rounds that don't matter, which is 1 and 2, and then let the last 3 really determine what's going on. The better players should, by definition, shoot higher in 1 and 2 if they have the harder missions, because they should be knowing the missions.
Sure.
So
I was Matt, I played this mission the other day because it was going to be in our mission pack for a doubles event that I was going to play in. We didn't end up getting enough people for it, so we just played a couple doubles games and had fun. Nice. But it is a really good, it's probably my favorite this is my favorite iteration of the instant win battle plan that they have done. We've had one for as long as AOS has been out, as far as I can remember. There's been one of these, and this is the best one so far, because you can't just grab that middle objective. You have to already have owned your objective for a whole turn, right?
Yep.
In order to grab it, meaning that you need to be setting up early and often, and there's so many ways to disrupt someone from being able to just quick instant snag it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having said that, I did have a quick snag move. I was playing Disciples of Tzeentch, or against Disciples of Tzeentch, and surprise, surprise, I was losing that battle of attrition. But I managed to charge in a unit of brutes onto his objective, which was the last one I needed. And because they had 60 blue horrors or some obnoxious number of little dudes, but they're all 1 wound models, and now they're not allowed to score.
Nice.
Yep.
See?
Yep.
That's awesome. Using your war scroll. That is using your war scroll. That's how you want to win.
Awesome. So that felt really good. It was a good play. And so that's fun. And I recently had a good chat with Don about these missions, because he hates this one and despises that they exist. But I think they're really important, actually, into not necessarily to play them all the time, but the fact that they are a mission that you are expected to be able to play.
Yep.
In a tournament situation is very healthy for the game.
Yeah. I have a few thoughts on this one and its predecessors. I guess I'm the opposite of Don, that I love them, because I think I agree with you. I think that, they're the ultimate distillation of objective play game. It's like, are you here to, pound all your guys into their guys and grind them all to dust? Well, yeah, on some level, because it's a war game. But if you're trying to win the mission, if you're supposed to grab the 3 Kyber crystals and get out of dodge, you get the 3 crystals, well, guess what? You won. And it's the absolutely most punishing check against people that says, "Oh, I'll just kill all the guys, and the points fall out later."
Yeah, and I think the main problem that I've seen, at least in our area, when this pops up, and this by far is the best version of it. Just you can't instantly have all 3. I think makes it 100 times better than the earlier iterations. But
yeah, that's fair.
The thing that I see with it, and how it pertains to like tournaments is like, this is not a mission you should be ending your day with. And I think that's on TOs, to be honest, especially after now, like feeling those shoes a couple of times and like putting these together, like a TO should not leave something on a nice edge experience. I think a mission like this actually sets the tempo for a tournament, right? This is something where if you're going to be putting it together, put it out front and let people get that right away, because now expectations are set. Oh, anything can happen, right? Even if they're getting the missions ahead of time, which I still think is bunk. I've enjoyed thoroughly watching people get surprised at the missions because I lay them down on table on game, right? They don't have any access to it for the past 2 tournaments.
I mean, it does require more work, but I always think that is the best way to do it.
Well, and setting expectations there, they're going to be like, oh, what's going to happen, right? It adds an amount of just variables that they're going to have to think through of like, oh, if we're getting this now, what's the rest of this going to be like? Or if somebody is going to be like, okay, well, I want to win that right away because they have the missions, ahead of time. They're like, oh, okay, well, I've got to build a list that does this too. They're going to sacrifice other things from their list, or they're going to be a super killy list that's either going to try and just go in and destroy turn 1, their opponent, and to get that objective, and then completely outplace themselves or not. I think it's a great filter at the start of a game or at the start of a tournament to be like, okay, let's actually lay the cards down and see what your list that's only designed for 5 missions that are ever present, how will this handle that? How will your opponent handle that? That will actually find who is a better player of the game instead of, whiners.
And I think that's why that's why making sure that these do show up in tournaments is really healthy for the game, because knowing that you might have to play Turf War, right, means that I cannot have a list that relies purely on deep strikes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even then, like if it does rely purely on deep strikes, you need to figure out as a general how to make that happen.
Yeah. What is my battle plan for when I can't do this, my usual trick? Yeah, exactly. Or like,
how's your flexibility accommodating the need to deal with less than ideal circumstances?
Yeah.
And what's the one where you can't teleport? I
can't remember off the top of my head.
Is that head-on collision?
It may be.
I don't remember. No, it's not head-on collision. It doesn't matter. But that's one, right? Okay, yeah. Knowing that's out there, do I want to play, Starborn, Seraphon, or do I want to play Thunder Lizard? To hedge my bets against not being able to teleport.
Yeah, or in other missions, be able to charge after you've summoned.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That kind of thing has always been particularly impactful for so many demon armies.
But to Miles' point, Mile actually made the perfect point there, though. The knowledge of your army. Actually, this ties right into yours, Jack, is like, if you're playing those missions, it requires a good knowledge of your war scrolls and like situational knowledge of those war scrolls, and especially on it requires those on things where like the units may not be an immediate like hot take, right? They may not be the cannons. Like brutes, they're okay, but like you're not going to see an overwhelming amount of brutes on the table, right? But they have a war scroll that has a special rule that actually helps you out very much on certain things. And in that mission, you can actually use it. So you need to know situationally as a general what you're doing and have the knowledge of the war scroll. Like you need to be practiced with it in order to do it. So missions like that, to me, cut down on like the amount of people just bringing random armies, like whatever's new, right? And then just kind of like, well, we'll figure it out. We're just going to do this by brute strength. No, it forces you to be a better general.
I definitely remember talking to you in AOS 2 back in the before times when we had certain heroes only score missions. Do we still have a heroes only score mission? I don't even remember in this book.
No, we have a 1-inch scoring mission, but that's about it as far as like.
But remember those heroes only score and playing KO, those missions were really fucking bullshit. Excuse my French. Because they always required the hero to either be the first on the objective or to get on the objective by killing the other hero who was on it. And no KO hero is going to kill anything in melee combat.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That was a rough one.
And so it just required me to, take more heroes than I wanted. Right, because I needed to have backups of heroes because they die easily, and I need them to score the objective. Mm-hmm. And 2, to have a solid game plan of how do I push a guy off this objective so that my hero can take it, and then how do I keep him alive? Like how do I keep him from getting hit because he is a fragile little dwarf man who is not in his boat anymore.
Yeah. He never wants to leave that boat. Why was he made?
To? Yeah. Yeah, AOS 2.0 had some very funky missions, and there were some serious problems with it going back to the Hold 3, right?
Yeah.
So they are getting better, and definitely more tactically interesting, I think. Mm-hmm. But how can I put it? The way. The way that the previous missions interacted with books was really non-interactive at all, right? It was like, you have to do this thing. Okay, your list either has this to do it or it doesn't. And 3.0 has become such a more engaging game, sometimes much more frustrating, right? Because of the way that armor works now, the way that the reductions don't happen on the hit like they used to. That some armies are, pushed back quite a bit. But like overall, like these random missions that people that still have that taint, the smell of the oh Dieu of nasty poo poo. Like those are better. Those are much better now than they ever used to be, and I think they qualify even more for a competitive tournament because of the challenges that they present, as opposed to I hold this, I hold 1, I hold 2, I hold more. I hold that, I hold 1, I hold 2, I hold more, right?
No, I think it goes back in the days when we played old Warhammer Fantasy, really long time ago. I just full of ancient examples today.
Truly a graybeard's fonts of wisdom.
Right?
Indeed.
I remember, Jack, I don't know if you were there for this, but there was this one guy came in one day, and he had this ancient Bretonnian army of like models I'd never even seen before. Like that's how old they were. And, this was probably during the end times, and we were playing whatever. Mm-hmm. And he was looking at us and he's like, why aren't you guys using all the mysterious terrain? And we were like, oh, well, it kind of gets in the way, and it's just easier to push blocks around in the open field. And he's like, well, then what are you even doing? Yeah, of course it's easier to push blocks around an open field. That's why you put shit in the way. It's easier for your opponent too. Like the whole point of this mysterious terrain and all that kind of nonsense is to make the game, like to test yourself, to make it more challenging. That's how you get good.
Yeah, I really remember that guy.
Yeah. We've had that rant too on a previous episode, because I know at one point I was hating on that terrain just for how much time it took for me to just remember what was there. And admittedly, that was before I got the dice that just told me what was there.
Sure. No, and this was fantasy where it was like even more like you didn't even know what type of terrain it was.
Yeah.
Like before you were rolling, it's like, oh, it's a swamp. I better hope I have one of those on the shelf. Like,
yep, that's right. With special swamp rules on it, not like an easy table. I think it was like, oh, let me go find that.
Yeah, that's like, and all to GW's credit there. For as much as I'm going to be a fanboy right now, like they've really kind of tightened that up. Now, if they could just apply that to garrisons, then I'll be a happy person. God, I fucking hate garrisons so much. Garrisons are the stupidest rules in the game.
Yeah.
How do you really feel?
Yeah, don't hide it.
Yeah. The apologies to the children, but
the
garrisons
children that listen to our podcast.
Yeah, just we're gonna find the viewership dropped, and we just got conflated with a kids channel, and someone kept allowing it to be downloaded.
Yeah, like, garrisons. Oh, garrisons. Okay. Back on target.
So that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it is such an interesting rabbit hole, though. Like the whole like terrain and how it works and how it impacts the game. I mean, I like the current AOS system because it can have an effect, and the terrain is what it is. Is it physically blocked? You have to fly or go up and over it. Then it has that impact. Otherwise, it doesn't get much more complicated. Like the 40K terrain rules right now, like require like some sort of special like UI overlay to visualize what's happening with those things sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's insane with 40K terrain, which apparently it's really easy. But I don't understand how I can touch a piece of terrain and be seen behind it if it's a giant building. Whereas if I'm an inch outside, I'm suddenly invisible. But that's another talk later.
Yes.
No, the specific problems with garrisons for me are the ability for random things to happen that very clearly aren't in the purview of the rules writers.
I think for competitive play, I mean, and this kind of goes against what I was just saying, right? Which is I think in general, I think you need to play this game warts and all. With all of the content that is intended for match play, because that's what the game is, right?
Yeah.
And those things that are harder are hard for your opponent as well, and so you should revel in that and not shy away from it.
I agree, and that's where and I'll give a little snippet here, and props to Charles for doing it. As much as I was raging about it internally, and minutely it was leaking out of my eyeballs. But he used garrisons to a pretty great effect. I was playing a buy army, so I wasn't actually expecting to play. So I brought my let's try this because it's funny Slanesh list, to carry the torch for Jack since he's going over to the ogres this weekend. And I brought a ton of twin souls. I brought 20 twin souls, each in individual units of 5.
Is that metric or imperial tons?
That is imperial.
So that's a stupid joke.
Yeah, so that should prefer the imperial system because it's sort of like odds and ends and bits and bobs to it, which lure him.
And
my twin souls are 43 stone.
Yes, I have no idea what that means. Are they stones? Do they measure them by certain hand-sized stones? How many stones can you fit in your flesh skin? How does it work? I don't understand.
It is the preferred measurement system of deviance.
Is it 43 stoned animals or I don't understand. I don't understand. But good for them for having something that even sounds pretentious, right? Oh yes, I'm 43 stones. This I'm just a pound. I'd rather have that.
So you got a ton of twin souls.
A ton of twin souls, 2 units of Zangor, and just 2 of the mortal wizards, a couple of other things here and there, and keeper, right? Everything that is supposed to be the ultimate trash.
The Zangor, you mean the Slangor?
Or Slangor, sorry.
Yeah. You accidentally gave yourself a good unit on the podcast.
Yeah. Yep. Strike me from the record.
Yeah, right.
And in all honesty, those units punched all above their weight. But I can't remember the mission. So Charles was playing his Gristlegore list, where was it Gristlegore? Yeah, it's Gristlegore, where he's got like just an insane amount of flayers that just all come back. They just all come back. So you have to kill them down to the last model. Otherwise, they're back in your face. And he had positioned himself and his terrain right up next to an objective that I knew I could take because of the speed of my keepers, or the speed of my keeper, my excuse me, and a couple of other units. And so I got up there. I was like, okay, I'm going to 50-50 destroy this terrain. I know it's 70-30, but, it's 50-50 for my rolls.
Sure.
And we're going to try and eat the guy inside. And so...
For the people at home, Matt actually has special dices that don't have sixes, and they just have a second one.
Yes. Yeah. It's really double ones, double twos, double threes. That's why I love when I get to play tournaments where I'm not allowed to use my own dice. Then I have no excuses for my failures.
The curse can be temporarily evaded.
Yeah, or just underlined. But so I got in charge his terrain that his leader dude was in, and he had a Terrorgeist right behind it within 3 inches. And so I failed to pop the terrain. Sure, expected. Okay, I'm going to eat this guy. He then nukes his own terrain using the Terrorgeist Monstrous Rampage, and then knocks his little leader out 6 inches away from me. And I'm just stuck there going, I was expecting to do this. I was expecting you to, flee out 6 inches. I'm not expecting you to roll a 1 for that guy to die. Right. I planned for all of this. But why can you destroy your own faction terrain? And that got into my head for the entire game. And I had planned on him doing exactly what he did. But why?
Yeah. It's funny that was the part.
No sense.
It's really funny that was the part that got you, Matt, because the part of your story that inflamed me a bit is I'm fighting you at the edge of your garrison, and your garrison gets blown up, and now you're out of combat with me because you've somehow emerged from the rubble far over there. And that doesn't seem right to me with the garrison interactions.
Especially when he's supposed to be locked in combat, right? That's the thing about all of the... You shouldn't be able to enter from one side of garrison and lock a unit in combat on the exact other side. But the fact that he could stomp his own faction terrain, what? That's not right.
You can stomp whatever you want, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're always allowed to.
But they really need that eternal throne.
They evidently don't.
It's like, why? Why is Matt, that a thing? Why is that available?
It's made out of bones. They can build one of those on the cheap. They put one up every 50 yards or so.
Also, you're totally forgetting the kind of weird ghoul madness probably meant they didn't think they were stomping it from a pile of bones to a pile of bone splinters. They probably thought they were carefully wrapping up the golden throne and putting in the wagon to be taken to safekeeping or something.
See, but here's the thing. It's fine with that army. Like that didn't cross my mind. It's like, okay, whatever. But it's like, it's your own faction terrain. Imagine if a Lizardman player was in the same situation and he has 5 or 6 characters and whatever garrisoned in it, and then a Stegodon just stomps and kills their own terrain.
That is pretty funny. Just thinking,
just to get like the Slan and whatever little skink priests just like out of
combat. Yep.
Yeah.
And so like that's where I was stuck.
But
like
potentially out of an 8-inch reach of a Bloodthirster or something like that. Like there's that's a big piece of terrain.
Exactly. So I wasn't hung up on his army's interaction. I was hung up on like, oh my God. Next time I play Lizardmen, I need to watch out for this. Like, what the fuck? I hate this rule. Sorry, little children.
I feel like destroying terrain is something that I don't do enough of. I remember to do it the other day against some Sylvaneth, because they get their free They're free. The free one from the Tree Lord.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter quite as much because they get to overgrow all the other terrain, right? So they if you destroy the one tree, it's not as big a deal. But I was like, hell no. I'm going to roundhouse kick the hell out of that terrain, that one solitary tree that you deign to put right in the middle of the board because it's going to annoy me.
And in all honesty, you should go after the other terrain and destroy it as well, right? That way they can't get it.
Can you un-overgrow them by destroying them?
I have no idea, but it loses any of the abilities.
If the terrain which underlies the overgrown status is destroyed, they can no longer teleport through. It's not like a woods anymore; it's just a hole of rubble, right?
I have no idea.
It's technically still... Anyway, hey, if you are listening to this podcast and you know the answer, hit us up on Twitter at Strikes Last and let us know the answer.
Yeah. And
Quick while Twitter is still a thing.
Please
let it
bring
burn.
100 to 200 people into the conversation. Make sure they listen to the podcast so you get good grounding.
Yeah. So that just threw me. That how do you complete a game after that when the implications, it's like it's staring into the void and the void punches you in the face, is crazy. Garrisons need fixing.
That's a weird rules you gotcha. I for sure can appreciate that moment.
Yeah. So learning moment. I had to give him the props, even as I was like gritting my teeth. But the twinkle in his eye, the twinkle. Anyways, so I did want to speak to something because I know we're a little low on time. But there was something in that tournament like I was not expecting to play, and so again I brought my shits and giggles list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw all these in here. I even brought fiends in that list. Like, who brings fiends anymore? Like, they're so expensive, and all of them completely punched above their weight. It surprised me because, I'm not gonna go and say like I'm an amazing bestest player, right? I'm not number one. I'm not even number 5, right? But it was funny seeing people immediately discount units. People like who have won some tournaments out here, some GTs, some big tournaments out here, go, I'm gonna wipe that out, and then playing them to the maximum effects because I know they're war scrolls, because every chance that I get where I'm gonna be able to play this army, I play this army and I try and keep up with it. I went up against 2 top table people over the course of this tournament, and both were nice edge games until, I rolled my double 1 dice. But the thing there is like, it really surprised me how Twin Souls, about half the games I was in, they felt OP. They felt overpowered the way that I was using them. And I wonder, and it's something I'd love to tackle in the next episode, like, how much are we missing because of things like cannons? How much play should other things be seeing? Because there's so much more in these books, and it's amazing how we as players wanting to be like, okay, whether or not you want to win or just have a good time, you want to take units that will facilitate that, right?
Doing good stuff.
Yeah, winning can be your fun time for some people, and fun time can be your winning for others, right? But what are we missing? There's so many different units that are missing. Twin Souls absolutely ate, I think, 60 wounds of pink horrors all the way down alive over the course of a game, and just did it with no problem at all, right? I had them destroy just whatever they went into, right? What are we missing?
Yeah, fair enough. I think there's a lot of things probably, Matt, and that sounds like a great discussion for next time. I feel like I don't know, the game is in a really good place, Anybody who says it's not is a liar.
Agreed with that.
Cheat.
And I think that topic's going to have a lot of interesting avenues to it. It's both a place which could be even further growth for the game, and also some interesting opportunities for, I think, canny players out there, if they think about it that way. But, I won't get all into it now. That's for next episode, listeners. Mm-hmm. Make sure you all come back.
Yeah. And to Miles' Twitter remark there, give us a unit. Let's look at it. Give us a unit that you think looks like shit. Give us it in the YouTube comments. Give it to us wherever.
Exactly.
We're on Twitter at Strikes Last, or I'm at ASL Miles. Also on Mastodon at ASL Miles.
Mastodon.
I know, I'm so cool. I don't know. Maybe we'll be on TikTok. I don't know. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
How much free time can I muster?
Indeed.
Cool. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. As always, we are always Strikes Last.
Who's saying the last word? Who's doing it?
Who's doing it?
Not me.
It's Miles. Miles is waiting, lurking. That was a laugh. Counted. It's sneaky. It was me.